Okay, so last video my camera crapped out on what was the most interesting part of the whole ring build, which was cutting the groove and putting the copper inlay in. So we're going to do just that operation on this video, just to show how I did it. So first things first is the tool. And it's just a little dovetail. It's a 10-degree angle on each side of the dovetail. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut, we know the width of that cutting edge. We're going to come in, we're going to touch off, or just touch it to the front of the part. We're going to zero a dial indicator that I have mounted on my carriage. We're going to come over to where we want the center of that band to be, plus half of the width of this cutter tool. And then we're going to plunge in, and I'm going to go in 30 thousandths. So I want a 30 thousandths groove, 30 thousandths deep groove, so 30 thousandths per side. So on these direct reading dials, it would be 60 thousandths on my dials. I'm going to plunge in, and then we're going to move it back and forth. We're going to move it this way about 5 thousandths and this way about 5 thousandths, and then we'll measure it, and we'll get that the front of the dovetail groove there, we'll get that to be 100 thousandths wide. So that's the plan right now. And the biggest thing is, since this is a hand ground bit, this cutting tip, while it's 90 degrees to the edges of the dovetail, it might not necessarily be 90 degrees to the edges of this. So when you put it in your tool post, just kind of touch it up against and see if you see a gap. But we were pretty close last time, so we can always just double check it. And we look pretty good there. Of course, we're out of focus. Looks pretty good. So now I'm going to do exactly what we did before. So come in, touch there, move the indicator on my carriage, set that at 0, and I think it is 167 thousandths, 167, and that's where we're going to put our groove. It's right there. So lock down the carriage. We're on I'm going to actually run this in back gear because it shattered last time, and I was able to get a decent finish in back gear. So pop it in back gear. Get some cutting oil ready. Okay, and we're just going to come, I'm going to touch. Right there's my touch. We'll set 0. And we're going to go in 60. Depth. I'm just going to let the tool pressure get that last little bit out. We're going to unlock the carriage. We're going to move 5 thousandths one way, and this is getting that dovetail in there. And we're going to move 5 thousandths the other way, and now I'm just going to measure the width of that groove there. And we've got 10 more thousandths to go, so I'll just do 5 and 5 again. That's 5 off. that should be it right there, which we're at 100,000, so we're at 99, so good enough. Back this out. So what I'm going to do now is just move the carriage out of the way, put this back into direct drive, just take a little piece of emery, and then I'm just going to smooth out the burr very gently. And that's it. So that's our groove. Now I'm going to remove the entire chuck. This is still in the 4-jaw. I'm going to remove the entire chuck, and we're going to put the 3-jaw in, and we're going to pot off our ring. Okay, so this is the copper we're going to be using, and it's just a piece of type L 1 1/8" copper, and I've already faced the edge, and I'm just going to deburr the inside. I'm just going to use one of these little whirligigs, but we're going to turn the lathe on to do it. Okay, we're all deburred there. And we're just going to take a piece of Scotch-Brite, give it a quick little polish. Hit up the inside too. Okay. So we're going to put a potting blade in here. And we're going to pot that off to 100 thousandths. Now I'm going to use oil, so after the fact I'm just going to have to degrease this. I'm going to have to degrease the ring anyway. So we're just going to touch with our potting blade here, and we're going to bring our little carriage mounted indicator up to touch the carriage. Okay, I'm going to set it to 0 on that. I'm going to move over the 100 thousandths plus the width of the potting blade, and we're going to lock the carriage down. And we're going to add a little bit of oil here. And we just got to be very, very careful, because this is going to be grabby, and you can't put it in the chuck too tight, otherwise you will obviously crush the tubing. So you just got to be gentle with it, and it's going to want to grab no matter what you do. And since we have the little lead-in angle on that tool bit there, I should pot the ring side off first. There's there. Okay. So there's our ring. And all I'm going to do is take that whirligig thing and hand deburr the other side. Okay, so we're pretty much ready. We're all degreased. And here's the ring, and it almost wants to fit right in there. It's slightly larger, but that's okay, because when we push it in, it's going to want to smush into that groove. And what we're going to do is we're going to split this with just a pair of dikes, and we're going to start heating it up and tapping it around. And I'm just going to use a brass hammer to do it. Now the face of this is kind of gnarly. It's a little beat up. If you want to use a polished hammer, that's fine. It'll make a better finish, but we're going to be facing this. We're going to be cutting this down to match the rest of it, so it really doesn't make that much of a difference. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a pair of dikes, and as straight as we can, I'm just going to nip this ring. So you see we cut it, and by hand I'm just going to straighten it out. Alright, then I'm going to heat this up, and then I'm going to start tapping around, so hopefully I don't melt my camera. I just need 2 hands to get it started, but once we get it in there. And this isn't hurting the bearings or anything. There are plain bearings in this lathe, so it's not hurting anything. And we'll just continue around. Okay, so we're getting around to the join. And now this is how I did it before, is just slowly nip that back until you can see where they're going to overlap. Looks pretty good. Okay, went a little too far with that. Just grab a little screwdriver. Okay, so that's not quite in there yet. We can still bend it back. And we'll just take a little bit more off. Right there, that looks good. There we go. Now all I'm going to do is just go around and make sure everything else. Okay, now one word of caution is you do have to make sure that when you're using the torch around titanium chips, you make sure there's none wherever you're pointing the torch, because they can catch on fire. Titanium is actually an ingredient in fireworks. It's kind of what makes those little sparkly things. Okay, so now that that's all set, what I want to do is I want to take the stress out of that a little bit, because it does work harden the copper. So I'm just going to heat it up again where it is, and that'll be able to kind of relax it, and it'll want to stay where it is. Okay, so we'll just let that cool and then we can silver solder it. Okay, so there's our join right there, and we want to silver solder that. So we had to make sure that we cleaned everything, which everything is nice and clean, polished out, and that joint is really clean. I'm just going to dab a little bit of Fluxy on there. I'd add some water to this so it's a little on the liquidy side, but it'll work just fine. And now we'll just put a little bit of silver solder on that. Okay, now we'll just let that cool, and we'll just even that out. Okay, so I just went over it with a little bit of emery, and that's what we got right now. We just got to take that down flush. A little hanger right there. Get that off, no problem. There it is. Now the joint is right there. That little line right there. See if I can get it right between the two shiny spots. A little line is our silver solder joint. And now all that needs is a polish. Got a little bit of a mark right there. I can take that off either with just some polish, or I can go over it again. That's probably just the edge of where the ring went in. That's probably a little bit of that flux that kind of went in and under when it folded over. I'm gonna take a little cut and just clear that up. But other than that, that's it. Okay, so here's the one we just made in the lathe. I just pulled it out. I haven't touched it, haven't polished it, haven't done anything to it. So you can see we got a little bit of a hollow right here. If I took another skim cut, that would clear up perfectly fine. But that'll probably come out when I polish it anyway. And let's see if we can find the join. There it is right there. So, you know, if you can do it once, you got lucky. You can do it twice, you get a viable option. You can see it pretty good there. Now I also today went out and bought some polishing compound and went back to the other ones and just gave them a nice polish. So this is one of them here. Fingerprints on it. It polishes up really nice. What came out super nice is the other one. You can see that thing polishes to a mirror finish. The only thing is it shows every fingerprint. And the joint on this one might have been completely buffed out. I don't know if I can find it again. I'll try. Right there. It's right at the very tip of my fingernail. I don't know if you can see it. Kind of right. That looks like a different reflection right there, right at the very tip of my finger. You can barely see it. That's the join. Right there. Trying to get the best angle I can on it. Right, I think that's the best it's going to come out, is that little line right there is the join. But that's it. And I know, as some of you guys said, to seal it so you don't get black finger syndrome. And what I'll probably do is they make I looked up online to see what people, because a lot of people make pure copper jewelry, and I was trying to see what they used, and they use a product called Renaissance wax, which was got a lot of museums and stuff used to protect metal and wood, and so I'm going to pick up some of that and put it on there, and what it'll do is it'll protect the copper and keep it from oxidizing. The only thing is it's going to wear off, but even if you put varnish or something on there, eventually it's going to wear off, so you'd have to reapply it. So if I use the Renaissance wax stuff, I can reapply it every once in a while and you know, buff out the ring every once in a while. But that's it.